already know what it is. Okay. Damn, you think you think I'm not, you think you tough. Damn, you think.
Salut, and welcome to today's vlog. As you may not have guessed it from the first intro, I'm going to be talking to you today about church. On a side note, I'm catching up with the vlogs. My hair is back in an afro, so I'm nearly up to speed with the vlogs. So a few more to upload and you will be up to date. But back to the subject at hand. I'm going to be talking to you today about church. Well, back in England and here really, I go to church because I'm a Christian, so I enjoy being around other Christians and sharing my faith in that way. So when I came to France, I really wanted to get plugged into a church, and not too long after arriving, I managed to find one after speaking to a lovely lady, Walter, and her husband, lovely lady Mary Christie and her husband Walter, and they helped me find their church. In fact, I have a note I can show you. Oop. This was the note I received on my first few days in Orléans. That's an invitation from Walter and his wife, Mary Christie, to come along with them to their church. And I thought that was really cute because I had no idea where to go, and they just said, so after you've eaten, we can meet here, and they will help me go to a Bible study not far from town. And after having gone to the first Bible study, I went along to their church on a Sunday and I felt at home ever since. Now, having been to a church in France for probably my whole year abroad almost, started going at the end of October and I'm still going to one regularly now, I've found a lot of differences between French churches and English churches, and this vlog is just me recapping on some of the differences that I found between the two. There are similarities, but there are also differences too. So I'm going to stop rambling on and I'm going to begin with French church versus English church. Number one is the language. So I thought it would be very handy if I bought myself one of these. La Bible. And yeah, it's been really useful for helping me progress my language, be able to take part in discussion. Number two would be location. I've found a church in Olivet, which is a small town next to, well, it's a small area next to Orléans. So Orléans here, you take a small drive, and Olivet is kind of like that. So location for me this year has been a bit different. I've either had to take the tram, car share with people from church, but that's all again been a good experience to make me face the trams, find out how to take them, and just have good conversations in cars. Number three is the type of church. In England, I normally go to a Baptist church, and in France, I found myself at home in an evangelistic church where they go out evangelizing. That was a challenge when I took part in one a couple of weeks ago because I was a bit nervous about the language, but just go with no expectations and you'll always be pleasantly surprised. So I ended up being paired up with a lady called Natalie, and we were going around just handing people leaflets to some seminars that were going to take place, and we soon found ourselves talking about church in a 2-on-2 basketball game. Don't know how it happened, but it was a good time. I enjoyed it loads. So always go with no expectations and you will always be pleasantly surprised. Number four is songs. When you have the worship part of church or any general meeting, you want to sing songs of praise or many different types of songs. I found the songs different. Yes, they are in French, but also I find the French songs are more traditional, like this. And the English songs are more contemporary, like this.
He is jealous for me. Love's like a hurricane. I am a tree.
We do still have the traditional hymns and songs in England, but I think maybe because I know the language better, I know how to find the more contemporary songs, like different ranges of songs and styles, whereas in France, I only really know the traditionals, but who knows, I may come across something in the next few weeks. Just to conclude, I want to say yes, there are many differences between church in France and church in England, but when you look past all the differences, so when you look past the language, the songs, the location, you all share like the same word and you praise and give thanks to the same God. So really, when you have this strong foundation, you share that, you do have a sense that you're a family and you're together, even though there are differences. The togetherness and the things you share are stronger than that. So from the moment I found the right church in France, I've instantly felt at home, and I can start to see, or I've begun to see, parallels between my church and my church in France, because I can see certain people like the youth minister who sometimes invites me around for tea, lunches, or just to hang out with him and his family, because he's got the cutest little kids and they remind me of my nephews. Or there'll be a lady at church who always asks me how I am, and she'll remind me of Margaret or Judith, and just people I know back home. I can see them, or elements of them in France, which has been really, really nice. My advice to anyone thinking about going to church in France, or if you go to church in England, I would advise you to get plugged in France. Not only does it help you experience the culture, but it really does help you strengthen your faith, because sometimes you may feel very alone out there on year abroad, but when you have a strong network of friends in the faith, it just helps you keep strong and you feel good and you feel encouraged. And then for those who may not go to church, who might not have a faith or an interest in faith, if you want to really experience the culture, I would also advise you to go along to a church service, maybe in a seasonal time. So when it's a time like Christmas, that's the perfect time to go to church. That's when there are an increased number of people going to church, there are many things to do and share, and then you're familiar with the story and the context, but you'll then get to see that in a French aspect. So, in short, everyone should go to church in France. I'm just saying. So on that note, I am going to head off and sign out for this blog. So until the next time, à bientôt!